Hello everyone and welcome back to Castlevania Portrait of Ruin. Last time we finished up the City of Haze, or at least as much as we could have finished at the time. In this part we won't be entering any new painting worlds, but we will be exploring more of Dracula's castle. Typically how this goes is that between painting worlds you have to sort of explore, well, more of Dracula's castle, either to find the next painting world, or to find the next part of the story progression. In this part we'll be using what we got in the City of Haze to explore further in the castle, because remember how we got the footstool last part, and that will be used to conquer some higher jumps needed to progress. Anyways, Wind has no new side quest for us. It's still just the one, and I will be showing that one off in its, as I explained in the past part, I'll be showing off side quests in the separate videos. Unfortunately, the footstool is not enough to bridge some of the more higher jumps. We need something else to actually gain even more verticality. And if you played other Castlevania games, like the other Castlevania games in the Metroidvania series, you'll probably know what that is. I won't spoil it for anyone who doesn't know what it is, but also here we find a more classic Castlevania move that's been in the game ever since Super Castlevania 4. It's the ability to sort of use your whip as a sort of a physics object, or you can let it hang and then you can flail it around in a bunch of different directions. It's not very great at damage-wise, but it is a bit fun to mess around with. And here we have the next boss already. We fought a boss last part, and now we're fighting another one. Even though think we'd have to do some more exploring, but this monster is the same as the one we saw in part 1. He chased us down a hallway, and we had to break a bunch of walls to escape from it, and now we're fighting it one-on-one in this sort of arena type thing. I'm going to be totally honest, I did die at this boss, and I did edit that out, and unfortunately we missed a little bit, but this spell that I'm using with Charlotte is Summon Skeleton, and it lets you summon a bunch of skeletons that throw bones. It's pretty useful. The normal version, non-charged, summons 2 skeletons, I think, whereas the charged version summons 5 or 4. I don't really remember. I forget things very easily. Anyways, as you can see there, I killed the monster, but it still managed to get one final hit in on me. That's I think that's something with this game, where if you deal the final blow while the enemy is in already started an attack animation, it continues it and then does the death animation afterwards. Anyways, that boss, not very difficult. It does have a lot of HP, but as with the last boss, once you figure out the pattern, you can easily dodge and you can beat it quite easily. What we saw just up there, right before this, was a block, and we couldn't push it because it's too heavy. Although the game doesn't really tell you that, but judging by the way things happen, that's my theory. You need a new move to be able to move those blocks that are heavier. You can't move them even if you do call your partner to push. And here we have a new area of Dracula's castle. It's sort of the sewer level. I mean, as far as sewer levels go at least. I mean, this is more like a sort of dungeon part, but it definitely has some sewer themes in it, which I don't mind. I mean, I never really mind sewer levels as long as the design is good. I know it's sort of a trope or a cliche to have a sewer level or a water level in video games, but I mean, in a game like this, it's sort of like open anyway, so I mean, it doesn't really matter the theme of the level because the design is mostly the same regardless of where you go, just with different monsters and stuff. And I like the background detail with the prisoners or monsters inside those cells. And here we find another type of a sub skill for Jonathan, which is a stance. It's basically like a buff sort of, where you use it and then you have, well, a buffed stat. In this case, the offensive form gives you more strength, which increases the damage output that you can do. It's kind of, I mean, it's somewhat useful. The only problem is that Jonathan's sort of form skills don't affect Charlotte in any way, so if you find a defensive form, you can't use it, and you can't like summon Jonathan to use it and then have, you know, increased defense, whereas Charlotte's buff magic affects both characters regardless of what buff it is. Even if Charlotte gets, I think it's like intelligence up, or, you know, some kind of skill that increases magic, it still affects Jonathan. Regardless, even if Jonathan doesn't rely heavily on the intelligence stat. We're also encountering a lot of like bigger enemies here and some more technical enemies, which I think is a nice way of the game design to introduce like enemies that aren't just like, oh, they walk from left to right, they jump into you. The more enemies that actually have their own moves and skill sets, which I think it's really fun actually. The enemies in this game is one of the higher points for me, because they're all very varied, and you know, you won't really find a lot of enemies that are the same. I mean, yeah, there will be enemies that are like in the sort of same family, but I mean, even then their appearance won't look the same, and you know, different stats and such. And I think it's very interesting to see the sort of like bigger buff enemies that have a lot of attacks and are sort of like boss battles in themselves, if you think about it. I mean, as long as you can. Speaking of, you know, like enemies that are sort of like boss battles or whatever, this one isn't really a boss battle because it only has one attack. It's the dragon zombie. And you know, it has more health than your average enemy. Fun fact, once you kill this thing, if you go back into that room, there will be like other enemies in there, as I will show you right here. Now we have a merman in here, and the dragon zombie does not appear here anymore, which, you know, I think that's a pretty neat touch to show that, oh, that enemy was a lot more powerful and there's really only one in here. I think we'll be encountering the dragon zombie later on, which I hope we will, because as far as I know it does have a drop, and since I'm aiming for 100% completion, it would be nice to get that drop. Otherwise, this area is pretty like, it's a good sort of transitional area because, I mean, it's not too big and it introduces a lot of new enemies. And you know, it's not tedious or anything. It's still in style with the other areas of the game, and I like that. I think I mean, I don't really think too much of this area, to be honest. It's just, oh, I go through here to get to the other place. There are no painting worlds inside inside, yeah, the sewer area. So it's more or less just, you go through here to get to the next area of Dracula's castle where there will be a painting world. And here we see a very sort of interesting enemy, the Invisible Man. You can still see him quite clearly because the outline is sort of there. Or the place where he is a bit like distorted on the screen. But he's still kind of tough to fight because he attacks very frequently, and that means that he can sometimes attack you when you're attacking, and as such cancel out your attack animation. And we find boots made out of seal fur, and that's kind of brutal. I mean, they're seals, poor animals. You know, monsters, whatever, they do crazy stuff. Also, I don't think I explained it in the last part when we got the team attack, which was the last thing we did. As you can see, my magic bar now is flashing, which means that you can't use a team attack. And when it's not flashing, it basically means, oh, you don't have enough magic to use it. Which is, you know, a nice indication to know whether or not you can use a team attack. These slimes are kind of annoying to fight because they're much lower to the ground. You could use a weapon like the claymore or the mace, which we have, to hit closer to the ground, but honestly I wasn't thinking about it. I like sticking with the long sword and the more quicker weapons. Soon enough we'll be finding more weapons that are bigger, or that have a bigger like hitbox, and also have a higher attack stat or attack speed. So sort of like longsword, but a little bit like bigger, as well as a lot of other cool weapons. I like the way these monsters appear and disappear when you kill them and when they spawn. The mudmen, they're very cool. They're kind of bland looking, obviously, but I mean they are made out of mud, so it's hard to sort of make that colorful or, you know, cool. But I do like the way they implement them here, because it feels like, oh, they fit perfectly in this sort of a setting. And here we find a new spell for Charlotte. It's Ice Fang. You'll see what it does right now. It basically, yeah, it does like, yeah, it does that. It summons two fangs of ice that travel across the screen. It's very useful. It does pretty good damage. The charged version goes longer than the non-charged version, but I don't think that the damage output is any different. We'll be seeing the Ice Fang more once we hit the next painting world for sure, because they'll come in use there. And there I found a copper plate, which I already actually have that because it dropped from the axe armors. But I guess I picked it up because I wasn't sure if it was just a copper plate or the or like a more powerful version of it. Because the like armor pickups, you know, some of them look really similar, and you might be thinking, oh, is that like a bronze plate, or, you know, something stronger than a copper plate? But no, it was still the copper plate, which, you know, whatever. I still picked it up because you know, I'm aiming to pick up as much as possible and complete the item database. And here we find a new antagonist, I suppose. Death. Death has been a staple of the Castlevania franchise ever since the first game. He is often seen as the sort of right-hand man of Dracula, or the servant of Dracula. And yeah, death does play a role in this game, as we can see here. However, we won't really run into death for a while, or as far as I know. But this is the first time we've seen him, and you know, they're talking about how, oh, this isn't Dracula's castle, but apparently Death has no idea, and you know, it's, you know, the story is getting kind of, I don't really follow the story too well. I mean, it's Castlevania, you got Dracula, you got Death, or maybe, who knows. In this game, apparently you don't have Dracula, but you have some guy named Bronner. I don't even... But, you know, at least you found out about, you know, Death, and that's interesting. Death has always been like one of the more developed sort of characters in the series. He's been in most, if not all, of the Metroidvania Castlevania games, or these sort of open exploration Castlevania games. And I've always enjoyed fighting Death in every Castlevania game. Spoiler alert, we will be fighting him in this game as well, but I don't think that's such a spoiler, considering that it's a Castlevania game, and now that we've seen him, it's like, oh, we'll probably fight him. And here we have Persephones. They are sort of main characters. I'm not entirely sure, but I think that Persephones are kind of similar to Succubi, where they look harmless and such, but then they sort of catch you off guard. Although I am not entirely sure about the origins of that. I'm pretty sure that they come from Greek mythology, just like Succubi. And now we're back where we started, with the block that we couldn't push, and no, we cannot push it from the other side either. And now we'll be going back. There's well, I mean, we can still explore the rest of the castle keep, or the Great Stairway, which is the area we're in right now. But I'll be leaving that for the next video, actually. I will be trying to keep the parts around 20 minutes. My plan is that in future painting worlds, I will try to do all one painting world in a video. So I'll probably go over during that. But thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. If you like it, please leave a like. If you disliked it, please leave a comment and tell me why. Also leave a dislike. See you guys next part.